Good morning and welcome to the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program and our webinar here at Tri-C, Cuyahoga Community College. Today we are going to be speaking with Laura LaCurcy about how to grow strategically through virtual assistants. So I am really looking forward to this because many of the businesses that come through our educational program need help. They're doing everything on their own. So this is going to be a really robust conversation about how you can begin to delegate your daily tasks through a virtual assistant. So Laura, please just take a minute to give us a quick bio about who you are and how you came to found Elite Virtual Assistants.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I actually started doing virtual assistant work myself back in 1997. So before Google was even around, I started working from home after a great career with the Cleveland Indians. I did that until about 2015. And then I just decided that I was really ready to get more into I really just wanted to expand what I was doing. So that's when I created the agency. And now, so we started in 2015. Now we have 28 virtual assistants that work for us, and the agency just continues to expand. So it's been a wonderful experience.
That is amazing. When you started, did you envision having 28 virtual assistants?
I did not. I just wanted to keep my skills sharp and continue working, but have a more flexible schedule since I knew I had, children on the way. And yes, I did not expect it to ever morph into what it has today, but it's been wonderful.
Well, let's go on to the first question. This is a question that many people have. How can I train someone to work for me if they're not in my office?
Yeah, so this is an area that people do get a little hung up on, but what I always tell people is the best thing to do is to have processes in place already. So typically, if you're a solopreneur, or even if you even have one or two people working with you, you generally know how you've been doing the work so far. So if it's not already documented, document your processes and create some type of system that you can easily hand over to somebody that they can then take over the tasks that you are looking to offload. And, with the technology that is out there today, you can have, like a video conference like this, you can screen record, yourself walking through a specific training. You can screen share with somebody so that you can actually teach them in real time so that they're on with you and they can ask questions as they go along. So really just the way that technology works anymore, it's so conducive to this type of relationship.
Well, I do want to pause right now so I can let our attendees know that we love questions. So if you have a question, feel free to chat or to use the question box. We will then answer your question, or if you want to wait until the end for our Q&A portion, that's helpful as well. But this is for you, so we want to make sure that you are getting the questions that you have answered. So with that, I do want to follow up, Laura. When you talk about documenting processes, what is the best way for a business owner to decide what to delegate to a virtual assistant?
Well, I always tell people to start small, but I have a delegating worksheet that I give to people, especially those that are struggling in this area. And so one of the areas, or one thing that I always tell people is to have these processes because it's easy to hand over. Another good thing to think about is anything that you do on a regular basis that's repetitive. We have so many things throughout our day that we do that are, the same thing at the same time every day, whether that's checking emails, checking in with clients, it could be a variety of tasks. So anything that you do on that regular basis is something very simple that you can give to somebody else to do. I also say whatever you can teach somebody to do, because there are things that only business owners can do or are comfortable doing themselves. But anything else that you can teach somebody to do is a really good task or area to hand off to somebody. There's a couple others too, like what you don't have time to do. Most of the time when people come to us, they have fallen behind in whatever it is that, that they just can't find the time to do. Typically, it's something like email marketing or social media posting, keeping up with their emails, anything that you feel is falling through the cracks that you can hand over to somebody that they will consistently take over for you and not just do periodically when you only have time to do it. I always say,
I was just going to say, I think that's a great point. When you talked about email, okay, I need a virtual assistant. I'm going to see if that's in our budget because my email is just insane. I remember back in the day where email was new and everyone was like, wow, we're really connected and it's going to help. And I just feel like I'm being buried in that. Now, we do have a question here. The question is some have advised using offshore virtual assistants, like the Philippines, for example, because of good talent and low wage. What are your thoughts about this? And then there's a follow-up question, but I'll let you go ahead and answer that first question.
Yeah, so I know there are a lot of people who have had great experiences with offshore virtual assistants. Our agency, we only work with clients and VAs in the United States, and the only, what I have heard from people that end up switching from the offshore to a U.S.-based VA is typically the communication barrier and the time difference, because I believe there's about a 12-hour time difference between the U.S. and the Philippines. And I know for a lot of people that does not work well, and the communication those are really the only two things that happen. Now, if you are offloading something that is not time sensitive, that is usually one of the better areas if you are going to go offshore. The rates are definitely lower, and a lot of people aren't comfortable doing that. There's just a stigma around maybe that there's a little more security if the person is within the United States versus being out of the country. So, but honestly, I feel like it's just something, it has to work for the individual. It has to work in their budget and in their comfort level.
Got it. That makes sense. So the follow-up question is, how do we go about selecting the best virtual assistant or VA, either on or offshore? Like what are things that people should be looking at to ascertain if this is, one, a quality virtual assistant, and two, the right fit for their organization?
I would approach, if you're looking for a freelance virtual assistant, you really want to take time to I would either get referrals from somebody. I feel like that's typically the safest way to start working with somebody that you would be comfortable with. There's a lot of factors that would go into it, but I honestly say treat it as if you are hiring an employee. Even though they are typically subcontractors, will only be working on a very part-time basis, you still want to put a good amount of effort into finding the right person. And then there's a lot of, security things that you could take around that as far as, sharing passwords and ways that you can do that, in a secure fashion. But I would just honestly approach it as a hiring process. You want to, obviously the skill level has to be there, but I am really more of the mindset that you want to hire for personality versus talent. So I feel like you have to have a really good connection with that person. That is key, and making sure that they are a really good communicator. And then obviously, depending on whatever you're hiring them for, that they're strong in those skills.
So when you talk about hiring for personality versus talent. Can you expound a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so what's really important, obviously, is you want somebody with a strong work ethic. You want somebody who, has an understanding and a passion for what you do as well, because that makes a really big difference. Maybe if you're a big picture person, you need somebody who's very detail oriented, and you don't need somebody who is also a big picture person. So those are just the types of things to really think about, because skills can be taught. Personality traits can't, because they're just embedded in us. So those, to me, that is the big difference between the two.
So then, one of the next question that people have is, will the virtual assistant know the software and systems that I use? And I'm wondering if that dovetails into your view of hiring for personality versus skill set, because you can teach the skill set.
Right. So what happens a lot of times is there are just so many applications out there, and 9 times out of 10, I mean, honestly, in the 4 years I've been doing this, I have never had a client come to me that has the exact same system in place that somebody else does, even if it's the same business model. So with that in mind, my suggestion, when you're looking for somebody who maybe you want them to have knowledge on this, as long as they have knowledge in that area. So let's say, for example, a CRM system or a database system. There's hundreds of them out there. So as long as somebody knows how to work through one, it's very easy for them to pick up another. Same with an email management system or a project management system, because they're all very similar. So I wouldn't be as concerned as, do they know this exact software, but are they familiar with that type of software? Because it's very easy for somebody to step in and learn something. And again, you're going to train them anyways, even if they have used the same software. Like, I like to use Salesforce or HubSpot as a good example of this, because you can have somebody who knows HubSpot, but you still have to train them on how you are using HubSpot or how you are using Salesforce, because those can be so customized and personalized for each business. So that's really more the important part, is the basic understanding of those types of programs.
That's a great point about, even if they know the software, it doesn't mean that they have used it in the way in which that particular business owner uses it. So I like the fact that you're really honing in on that. Our next question is, what are some examples of things that VAs do for small businesses? So you've been doing this for a number of years. You have over 25 virtual assistants. Can you give some examples of how the majority of your clients use your services?
Yes. So it's funny, because nobody, again, actually uses them the same way. But some of the tasks, one of the big ones, I should say, is email management. And I don't just mean sending out e-newsletters, but actually managing people's inboxes, because as people, any business owner knows, that is typically a huge pain point. So a lot of times what will happen is people will come to us and they need somebody to help sort through, what's important, what do I not need to do? I can unsubscribe to half of the things I'm subscribed to. Setting up some type of folder system so that emails are going into, maybe a review folder, maybe a hot folder, being able to say, okay, this email needs to be handled by X, and this email needs to be handled only by the business owner. So that's a really big one. Calendar management is also a big one. Helping to schedule appointments, follow up on appointments, a lot of customer relation follow-up, because that's where a lot of, especially if you're a solo business owner, that really tends to fall through the cracks. We go through, go to networking events and meet all these people and might get leads and prospects, but one person alone can't really handle all of that. So basically taking the information, putting it into a database, and then implementing a follow-up system that, again, is consistent.
Let me stop you here, Laura, because my question is, if you're using a virtual assistant, they're not handing you the business cards. How are you getting that information so that you can put it into a database system?
When it comes to business cards, they usually will package them up and send them over, or they can scan them. I know there are different, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. They're like little machines, and you can run the card through it, and it will actually scan the information. So this way you also will have it digitally saved as well as having a hard copy of it, and then your VA can go into that specific program and pull the information from there.
So this leads to the next question on our slide here. If someone is using your calendar and your email, how do you keep your password information safe? Like, how do you ascertain that, one, this person can be trusted with your password, and then how do you keep your information safe?
Well, to the first part of that question, to be honest with you, even if somebody is sitting in an office with you, you still cannot guarantee that your information is safe. And I feel like that's a definite misconception when it comes to working with someone remotely, because it can happen in any type of situation. So it's really having that faith that somebody is not going to do that for you, or do that to you, I should say. But as far as trying to protect at least your passwords, I always recommend people use a password manager. I recommend LastPass. I know there's many others out there, but it's such a simple system to use. And sometimes I'm surprised that people just say, well, I don't have time to set that up. It really doesn't take a lot of time. And honestly, the time that you put into setting up your dashboard, which is basically where you would put in the link to whatever the application is, and then you would put in the login and password information, and then what you do is you just share the access with another party versus them having your actual login information. So if for some reason, you stop working with this person, or you need to add additional people to your team, you don't have all of your login and password information out there that you have to go in and then change at some point. All you would do is go in and revoke access or add another person to have access to that specific application. So it really is worth the time to set that up in advance and then be able to easily share and revoke, access as you need to.
Wow. And what have you used in the past in terms of keeping passwords safe and the password management system?
I've used LastPass. That's what I use, and that's what I recommend to everybody. Now, there are others out there, and it's free. They do have a paid version for teams, but if you're working with just, one person or two people, you can actually just share that access on the free version. So I saw somebody.
How do you spell that? Is it LASPASS?
Oh, no, LAST. So LASTPASS. LastPass.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then our next question from one of our attendees says that they're interested in whether or not you offer e-commerce specific virtual assistants.
We do have VAs that have experience with e-commerce. So again, it's just getting more specific and drilling down into exactly what you need somebody to do as far as that goes. Okay. And a lot of times when you're it's being very specific, and I always tell people to create a job description because that really helps you find the right person.
And then the last question that we have before we open this up to more Q&A is, what if the employer needs help but can't afford to hire a virtual assistant?
Honestly, I love to quote Lisa Curley from this, who is a fellow colleague of mine. She's a time management and capacity coach, and what she says to this is perfect, because it's how can you not afford to? Because especially if you're a solopreneur, you are only going to be able to grow so much trying to do everything yourself. So it's just an investment in your business. That's really all it is, because you are never going to grow or scale to whatever heights you're hoping to if you're trying to do it all yourself. You need to be able to delegate those lower level tasks so that you are working on growing the business instead of working in it. And that is a big difference that, people, and we all do it. I mean, I have 3 virtual assistants that work for me, and I will still find myself, doing things that I will catch myself and say, I should not be doing this. And when you get to that point that these are things that you can give to somebody else, then you are just going to be working on growing your business. So there's always a way to be able to afford it. And the thing is also just, start small. I know I said this earlier, but just start small with some small tasks, set a budget for yourself, and just make sure that you are working within that. And then as you grow, you can add more tasks, and you'll be able to expand those positions.
Do virtual assistants also do sales calls?
Sales calls?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Yes, they do. They do. And you
what
want to find
don't
somebody,
virtual
though, that has
assistants
experience. What don't they do? They don't pick up your dry cleaning. They don't. That's really about it. Other than physically filing papers or greeting somebody at your doorstep, there's this entire. That's what's so wonderful about the age that we're in is remote work. This technology is so conducive to that.
Wow, that's amazing. So I'm going to open this up for any additional questions and answers from our attendees. I really love all the information you've given, because I'm going to say that from my perspective, I looked at a virtual assistant essentially as an admin, not necessarily, okay, they can do almost anything you need, they're just virtual. So that's
Correct.
really interesting to see that VAs also provide sales calls services for owners.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I always say, though, you're better off if you are looking at outsourcing sales calls, though, have a virtual assistant follow up on warmer leads, not necessarily a cold lead, because anymore, people don't answer the phone anymore. They really, if it's not somebody that they already know. So you want to be the one making that initial connection or relationship, and then have the virtual assistant do your follow-up for you. You might meet a prospect that maybe won't be ready for your services for a couple of years. I mean, that happens to us all the time, but we are doing continual follow-up with them and, staying top of mind. And then in a couple of years, they're like, okay, I'm ready for your services. So this way you don't go a 2-year span and then that person ends up going with somebody else. But cold calling anymore, I don't recommend it. I don't know anybody that gets really good results from cold calling. I did want to just throw that in there because it's also a numbers game. That's actually how I started being a virtual assistant. I was making calls for wholesalers. So I did that for many, many years. So I have a lot of experience with that.
Wow. So where can people learn more about Elite Virtual Assistants?
Go to our website, elitevirtualassist.com. We have an ebook on there that you can sign up for, and it basically tells you the ABCs of working with a VA and answers a lot of questions. A lot of the stuff that we went over today is in that ebook. On that website is also our delegating worksheet. We have a lot of free resources on there that you can download and use. You know, if this is something that you're really looking at doing, I would highly recommend that you go there and at least take the resources that you can and use them.
And then my last question to you is, what type of industries do you serve?
We actually serve a wide variety of markets. Our biggest one is attorneys. We work with a lot of attorneys. We work with business coaches. We have startups. We actually work with a nonprofit. So we really run the gamut on the types of industries that we work with. And there's really, other than attorneys, which is our biggest market that we have, we just seem to have a little bit of everything. So
wow. That is amazing. Well, I really appreciate all of your information that you've given us today. It has been really eye-opening for me in particular. I do want to make sure that I let our attendees know about the next webinar that we will be having, and it's called When Disaster Strikes Your Commercial Property. So basically how to have a contingency and mitigation plan, and then what to do if it happens, like a flood, for example. We've had a lot of water this summer. It's been a crazy season, and so what do you need to do to protect yourself? And as you can see, here is our website. You can go to www.tri-c, that's tri-c.edu/10KSB, and you can just go to our events page, and it will have the dates, and you can register from there. And then last, if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, we will have a survey. Please let us know. We're looking for small business owners that have been in existence for 2 or more years, have revenues of $150,000 or more in revenue annually, and a minimum of 4 full-time employees. So 2 part-time would equal 1 full-time. And you can apply also at our website as well. And we just want to help you grow your business and cultivate the growth within yourself. That's why we are doing these webinar series. I'd like to thank Laura again for her time and expertise. It has been a pleasure learning more about how we can delegate, how we can work more efficiently, and how we can do that through virtual assistance. Thank you again, Laura, and thank you all for attending. You have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much, Patrice. You too.